Hey there, Legal Pagers. Welcome to this episode of the Legal Page podcast. To all of you who have been around for a while, welcome back. And to all of my new listeners tuning in, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you guys have been on social media the past week, you know that I shared my thoughts on my Instagram stories about the bucket list family's holiday giveaways, which then got shared by thousands of people online. Which leads me now to publishing this podcast episode to dive a little deeper into the legalities of it all. I have had numerous people message me with additional questions on how influencers do things legally online, which I believe is not only an important discussion to have since our online world now actually allows being an influencer to be a full-time job. But since this whole influencer thing is so new, there's really not a ton of regulations and laws enforcing these types of people. Thus, I am talking today about a super interesting topic, influencer responsibility. I know we all follow these accounts that have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. And the main thing for you as consumers of social media to know is that these people who run those accounts acquire income based off sharing their lives via social media sources. And I've heard from a few marketing sources that they can make anywhere from around $100 or more per 10,000 followers that they have when they sign up to sponsor a company. Hence, I believe not only as an attorney, but also as someone who loves social media and is fully engaged in it as a consumer and also a producer of social media, is that it's time to finally just sit down and have a conversation surrounding the kinds of responsibilities these influencers have to their audiences. This is definitely going to be an interesting episode, my friends, so let's just get right to it. You're listening to the Legal Page podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. As a reminder, before we get into this episode, I am legally obligated to give my disclaimer. So I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. All legal information I talk about on this episode is intended for the masses and a large variety of different businesses. I am only your attorney when you hire me and we sign an engagement letter for me to work specifically on your legal issues. Please feel free to seek out another attorney in your hometown if you need specific legal advice or contact me for more information. Alrighty, here's the episode, friends. Okay, so before we dive into any legal stuff, it is probably best to go back to December 23rd and give you all a little recap of what happened. I want to initially shout out my legal assistant who actually brought this all to my attention to begin with. She noticed that some of her Instagram friends were sharing their thoughts about the bucket list family's giveaways and mentioned to me that I should potentially share my thoughts too from a legal perspective, since she knows that I followed the family and heard about their giveaways throughout the month. So I had seen, and I'm sure all of you listening in did too, see hundreds of thousands of people simply liking and sharing the bucket list family posts in their stories in hopes to win a family trip somewhere around the world. But to me, you guys, it just wasn't fully adding up. And to many others out there as well, it wasn't either. So how were these sneaky elves that they kept posting about going literally around the world to find the winners within hours of hopeful people that had just posted on their own stories that thought they had actually entered to win? So it seemed like the winners had already been selected, and a lot of people thought that. Once I did some research, though, on their website, I reviewed their official rules, and then I checked in with their website terms and conditions, and I just honestly simply felt compelled to explain to the public how the liking and sharing was not actually entering the public into these sweepstakes, but that there were many more steps, including liking other Instagram accounts, following the Bucket List family on YouTube, posting photos and videos of your own family on Instagram in like a creative and thoughtful way, using different hashtags, and of course, filling out a contact form with all of your family information. Mind you, at this point in time, I'm going to be very honest with you, I had about 6,500 followers on my Instagram account, and I was purely speaking to just my loyal followers, those 6,500 people. I am someone who is and regularly is doing all kinds of Instagram stories, chatting about legal things, and I share my thoughts a lot. So this wasn't something new that I had just done for this occasion. And I want to make it really clear right now that my intention was never to have thousands of people share my stories. As I sit here today, I still can't believe where it went. I am just simply a Montana lawyer girl over here sitting in my home office, and I was just chatting about the what's on tap for that day and decided that that type of story might have some relevance since I saw a bunch of my friends on Instagram and lots of my followers sharing the Bucket List family giveaways in their stories. However, much to my surprise, once I pressed publish on those Instagram stories, it started getting shared and shared and shared by more and more and more people. And right now, as I'm looking at the beginning of the story lineup, I saved it in my Instagram highlights, it looks like over about 66,000 people have viewed the beginning of my stories. I don't know what the retention is through that, but it's pretty close. I think everyone watched the majority of the stories. And that's nuts. It's like crazy. It also, you guys, shows the power of social media, which I think is pretty darn cool. And at this point in time as well, I've received over 2,500 personal direct messages from you about your thoughts and replies to my stories regarding this giveaway issue. Okay, now let's get into the logistics of everything. What exactly went down here? So the Bucket List family is on Instagram and YouTube as their main social media hubs. I know they also have a Twitter account and a Facebook account, but I believe those only also just link back to mostly their YouTube account. Instagram does that as well. They post things, but they always like tell people to go look at their really cool YouTube videos. But this issue that I'm talking about here revolves solely around their Instagram account and the 12 days of giveaways that they had in December. It's something that the family does every year. It's a really cool way of giving back to their followers and families in need. And I want to give them credit where credit is due. Like, it's amazing what they're doing. However, what occurred on their Instagram posts and stories is the main issue that I brought up. In not all, but some of their giveaway posts, they said this, quote, "On the 6th day of Christmas, the Bucket List family gave to me, ... And then they explain the trip and tag a couple of sponsors. And then they say, who will we surprise today? Like this post and tag a friend in the comments. Or they would say, like this post and then share this post in your Instagram stories. We'll share the surprise later today on our stories." Now, for all intensive purposes, I am going to refer to that little segment for the rest of this episode as, quote, liking and sharing. And while they do not explicitly say that liking and sharing will get you entered to win in their posts, and many, many, many people pointed that out to me in my direct messages, you guys, that is the entire issue here. Like, that's the issue. So I would just say you're kind of like missing the point if you don't understand like that, concept. The issue is they weren't clear on how to enter to win. And here is the kicker. The family certainly knew that people on Instagram believed that liking and sharing was all they needed to do when they had hundreds of thousands of shares to that effect. That was the time for the family to come forward and explain to everyone how their gifts actually worked. And again, I want to point out here that the family keeps calling them, quote, gifts, which is all fine and well, but really they're considered sweepstakes or a contest under the law when there are steps that you have to do to enter to win. But I'm just going to digress on that point. But instead, when they saw thousands and thousands of people sharing their posts in hopes to enter to win, that's when they needed to stand up and be totally transparent and clear in every single post and continually link their official rules because clearly people were confused. At that point in the month, though, even if they did link their rules early on and explain it to their previous audience at the beginning of December, and many of you have pointed that out to me as well, I am aware that they did that. The thing is they gained hundreds of thousands of new Instagram followers throughout the month that had no idea how to actually enter to win the trips. And again, that was beyond clear with all of us seeing these posts reshared on everyone and their dogs' Instagram accounts. And I really hope you are all just shaking your head up and down right now listening in, because we all know we saw tons of those posts shared as we click through our Instagram stories between like December 15th through December 23rd-ish. And I want to further explain that people on Instagram are not regularly visiting YouTube, where the Bucket List family explained in like a 10-ish minute video what the actual rules are, and then they linked to their post on the giveaways. And people, though, on Instagram are often not even consumers of YouTube. Now, I know the Bucket List family wanted people to go to their YouTube page because there's always different calls to action in Instagram and all throughout social media to get a consumer to go here. But of course, we all know that that helps them with more views on YouTube. The more views they have, the more money they make on YouTube. I'm just going to go into a little side note here. I don't know if you guys know that Google owns YouTube. They do. I'm sure many of you know that. That is why YouTube is such a powerful search engine, because it is linked up with Google, and then AdSense is the source behind all of those ads you see in the YouTube videos when you watch them. So companies pay to have their ads shared via YouTube. And on average, a YouTube channel can receive around $18 per 1,000 ad views. So someone who has millions of subscribers on YouTube can make thousands of dollars by posting and being very consistent with posting their videos and having like 200,000 people view their videos because they're getting money from AdSense. Not to mention, a channel like that is also likely to have sponsorship opportunities, endorsements, and product placements, where then they are making even more money. But you guys, I'm not a YouTube expert at all. I had to research all of this. I do not know that much about monetizing a YouTube channel, besides also a few books that I've read as well. So if you want more information on this, I'm just going to shout out here my friend Trina Little. She's a YouTube coach and strategist and knows way more than I do. There is also a book called YouTube Secrets that's pretty interesting that I've read. Okay, now let's get back to the story about the Bucket List family Instagram account. I just said that little piece there because it's important, because they wanted people to go view all of their YouTube videos. Back to Instagram, though. They had hundreds of thousands of new followers on Instagram throughout the month of December. And they only talked about their official giveaway rules on how to enter to win at the beginning of the month and in their YouTube video. Hence, the new followers didn't know what to do to enter to win. They assumed that liking and sharing was enough, and that is how they read all of those posts. And instead of coming out and being honest and truthful in their Instagram posts, the family didn't, and they let people continue liking and sharing, which ultimately helped them gain more followers by deceiving the public. And I feel that many, many people were duped and are saddened now that this family was not honest with how their giveaways worked and really had no idea how to legitimately enter to win.
This week's episode of the Legal Paige podcast is sponsored by the Legal Paige online shop. At thelegalpageshop.com, you can find all the contracts you'll ever need for your online business to protect yourself. They're easy to download, modify, and use with your clients in no time. Just go to thelegalpageshop.com, and as a special thank you for tuning in today to this episode, use the code GIVEAWAY10, GIVEAWAY 10 for 10% off your first purchase. That's thelegalpageshop.com.
So now, the aftermath of it all. I called them out on Instagram stories, talked about their posts, the liking and sharing, linked to their official rules. I underlined parts of it so the public could see. I snapped photos of their comments of their Instagram posts, and I did legal research to figure out what types of laws out there could potentially be implicated here. That ended up in having me being blocked. So the Bucket List family blocked me. They have also not reached out to me at all regarding the issue. They also immediately went and changed up the captions of some of their posts when this kind of started going a little bit miniature viral. And some of the posts now include the link to the official rules, but I want to be clear that that was not in their previous posts and captions. So that when the public was liking and sharing, that was not included and it wasn't linked in their bio. Also, it has come to my attention that they've also changed their official rules on their blog posts since all of this went down. I also want to point out that they have blocked many other people who have made comments on their posts, asking for their response to the misleading and deceiving nature of all of this to the public. This is from people who have told me, and they have screenshotted it to me via direct message on Instagram, so I know that they've blocked people. And they have continually said time and time again in response to a couple media sources that came out, and also in their own Instagram stories, they have said that they intentionally select a certain family to win. And then they even posted at the beginning of the month on their stories that the more thoughtful and creative the videos were from an entry, because like I said, you had to make a very thoughtful video to enter to win. They said that the more thoughtful the video was, the more likely that particular entry was to win. That was not disclosed to the public by the end of December and the whole giveaway process. And again, here I'm just trying to sum this all up. The majority of people assume that liking and sharing was enough. Here are the big issues with this giveaway in a nutshell. They were not clear on Instagram with how to enter to win by the end of their giveaways. And this is like days 6 through 13. They never ever said that liking and sharing wasn't enough. They did not link their official rules in their bio for people to easily access throughout the entire month. They wanted them to just simply go to YouTube, but that doesn't fully explain to Instagram consumers what to do. They did not explain on Instagram stories that there were more steps to enter, and that would have been so easy for them to do, and I've seen other influencers do it, and they still haven't made a statement to the public taking responsibility for anything. They just keep saying that these are gifts and they're not typical giveaways that you see on social media, and that they are intentional about who they choose. Okay, woof. That was a lot of information, but I really wanted to go all out for you all tuning in on what has happened the past 7 days. And finally, I am a very forthright person, and I want to be clear. Yes, I did gain followers from this. Was it my intention at the start? No. Can anyone really ever know about, the whole going viral or whatever it's called on social media when your stuff gets shared tons of times? No, I had no idea. I had around 6,500 followers, and now I'm about 14,400 as I record this episode right now. I have also received tons of messages on Instagram. Most were good, but some were really hurtful and hateful. And I know that comes with the territory, as I very quickly found out. However, I just want you all to please know that I have tough skin and I can definitely handle it. I know that I started this conversation and I really wanted to make it a conversation with my audience on Instagram. I asked for your feedback specifically in my stories. I wanted your opinions about it, and that is what I got. So that is fine. And the majority of people, I would say like 90 to 95% of you, agreed with everything I said and thought something was definitely up with what was going on. But some fierce followers of the family also got a little choice with me, and I just want to say that's totally fine, and you are entitled to your opinions. That's why this whole thing is honestly so interesting, because there are two sides to the story here. There are always two sides to a lawsuit and differing arguments for both sides of someone trying to interpret a law. And that is just the way the world turns. Trust me, I get it. I went to law school for this, so I totally understand. Now, before we get into the legalities of things, I just want to get into some definitions here about influencers. So first, what is an influencer? So a social media influencer is a user on social media who has established credibility in a specific industry. They have access to a large audience. That's not really quantifiable, but it's a large audience. I would say at least more than 10,000. And they can persuade others by virtue of their authenticity and reach. Now, the words and the things that they post and everything they do on their social media presence is very important because that establishes credibility with their audience. And people purchase things based on their endorsements and use of certain products. This is why brands reach out to these people to partner with them, and then in turn, the influencer makes money off of promoting those partner products. A CBS article noted that mega influencers, as the world of social media often refers to them as, and these people have about 1 million or more followers, can even earn up to $250,000 per social media post. Like, that's nuts. And so there's influencers, there's mega influencers. I know now there's even micro influencers. So really anyone can be an influencer as long as they have some type of audience. But the main thing to note is that the more influence you have, so the more followers, shares, engagement, the more valuable that influencer is to companies out there who want them to sponsor their products or services. Now, the big question you all have is what laws apply to influencers and giveaways? Who regulates these things? Can influencers that do things like this with the bucket list family and are deceptive marketing and advertising practices be held accountable? Okay, so this is not an easy answer, and as you've probably heard many lawyers say in your lifetime, it really depends. There are federal regulations, there's also state laws that apply, and I'm going to go through a few of those here. So first off is the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, as I'm going to refer to it as. There are specific disclosures for social media, and you can find this on the FTC's website. I'm going to link it in my show notes. Don't you worry, I'm going to have all this up. So the FTC regulates that any sponsorships or partnerships, whether it's financial, employment, personal, or family relationship with a brand, must be disclosed. The FTC requires that any influencer with a material connection to a brand clearly and obviously disclose that material connection any and every time they promote the product. That's really important. It's just that simple. Advertising should be truthful and not misleading any and every time you post. And the FTC can fine you if you're not. So the FTC has memos on their website further addressing how to accurately identify a sponsored post through this clear and conspicuous wording. And again, I've told you I'm going to link all this up, so don't you worry. They pointed out that many consumers will not understand a disclosure like hashtag SP or thanks, and then you tag the brand, or hashtag partner in an Instagram post to mean that that is actually a post that is sponsored. Thus, all influencers should put things like sponsored by @ and then you tag the brand. That's so clear and so conspicuous that you are sponsored by that particular company. The FTC also requires these hashtags: hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored, or hashtag paid. It's an or, followed by the brand in the caption. And those have to be in the first 125 characters for all sponsored Instagram posts by influencers. Now, when it's a giveaway, it's not entirely clear that the same applies, but I could definitely argue that it does. You most certainly have to tag and clearly and conspicuously delineate who the sponsors are of all of these giveaways in your posts, because that goes with sponsorships. But you should probably also hashtag giveaway. You should explain if how the giveaway works, official rules. I've said all of this in my previous episode on how to run a legal online giveaway. But the issue here is what happens when you don't do that. Okay, so you were misleading, you were deceptive, people were tricked into a certain thing. What laws apply under the FTC in that specific situation? So Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commission Act, this is 15 U.S.C. Section 45, prohibits, quote, unfair or deceptive acts or practices in or affecting commerce, end quote. This prohibition applies to all persons engaged in commerce, including online businesses. The FTC is authorized to initiate federal district court proceedings by its own attorneys. They can enjoin violations of this FTC Act. That means enjoin means to stop, to prohibit, and they can secure such equitable relief as may be appropriate in each case. So they decide those things. FTC regulates this. Thus, this would be a federal case brought by the FTC, and it would also implicate fines on behalf of a company who violated the law by having some type of fraudulent or deceptive advertising practices. So I do not work for the FTC, just being very clear here. I don't really know anyone who does. But what we can do as consumers of social media is start writing into the FTC to identify these issues, and then they will do their investigation and determine if it's a chargeable offense. That is the main thing that we all need to do as consumers. We need to realize that we can play a very integral part in all of this by notifying these, different departments of the government and also our elected officials. So the FTC regulates federal trade and commerce issues, but there are also likely state consumer protection laws at play. Those could be causes of action in a civil lawsuit if someone were to sue in a certain state. Now, this is an issue because with influencers who have millions of followers and consumers all over the United States, that means many state laws could apply. And then we also have the issue of damages. So civil suits require damages, and there would be difficulty ascertaining what monetary damages occurred when people just liked and shared these posts on their stories. Now, I'm sure some crafty plaintiff's attorney could come up with some type of other damages, like punitive damages versus purely compensatory damages. Now, regardless, if you've participated in a giveaway or other form of sweepstakes and you feel misled or uncomfortable as a consumer, it is so important to know that there is something you can personally do about it. First, find out which state the business doing the giveaway is located in. You can do this via a Google search, or you can search that business's website, and it should be under the governing law section of their website terms and conditions. And then next, you'll want to visit the Department of Commerce or the Division of Consumer Protection for that particular state, and you can submit a consumer complaint. I will link a sample website from my own state in the show notes for you to get a better idea of how to do this. Hey there, thanks for tuning into this episode. I am Paige. As you know, I'm the host of this podcast, and I just wanted to quickly interject and let you all know that if you want more information, if you have further questions about this, I love answering those in a general forum. So not through one-on-one because I can't do that, but I wanted to personally invite you to the Legal Paige Facebook community. It's a great place where we can chat about all things legal related to things that you've seen online, or if you're a business owner, things that have happened to you. And then others can chime in, and me and my team will also give you some answers as well. So again, it's the Legal Paige Facebook community. You can just type into Facebook, the Legal Paige community, and we should pop up. You answer a few questions just to make sure that you are an online business, and then we'll get you in the group. Okay, now finally, I want to touch on tax regulations. The IRS requires you to report the prizes of sweepstakes when they have a value of more than $600. So the sponsor of the sweepstakes, usually the influencer, has to submit a Form 1099 miscellaneous to report the value of that gift or prize when it's above $600. This is why it's a good idea for influencers, for all of you out there tuning in, listen up. It's really good for you to get a affidavit from the winner with their name, their social security number, and probably a W-9 form. And do that before you send the prize, because you're going to need to file your 1099s and get these to these people by the end of the year. They have to be filed every year by January 31st for any of the prizes that were awarded in the previous year. And all winners of prizes, just so you all know as consumers out there, no matter the value, under federal law must report all winnings to the IRS as other income. I know people don't report these, but I'm just going to point it out there because I'm legally obligated to say so. You need to report these, and your accountant is going to tell you as such. Now, if the sweepstakes prize is valued more than $5,000, the sponsor is supposed to withhold 25% of the prize value for federal tax purposes. And they might even have to withhold some state taxes as well, but that varies state by state. Now, if the prize is like expensive things, they may also, like the influencer could also be required to have the person who wins pay some type of tax withholding before they release this non-cash prize to you. For instance, if you won like a $20,000 trip around the world, you may have to give the sponsor of that like $5,000, which is 25% for federal tax withholding purposes before they will gift you the vacation. And like I said, you may also have to pay state withholding right up front. And I'm not an accountant, not a CPA. I took some tax classes in law school, but that's about as far as I got. I thought I was interested in going and getting my LLM, so I like tax law a lot. But I am not an accountant or a CPA, and I definitely will get an accountant on here, you guys, to chat more about tax responsibilities for influencer giveaways. So please stay tuned for that episode. Now, I just want to be very upfront here and state my opinion of laws and things that are going on. The influencer world is new. It's literally only ballooned up over the past, I'd say, 3 years, give or take. The government is also really behind with our online economy. If you can't tell, they are just starting, like states are just starting to tax digital goods and things that are happening online. They are starting to catch up, but they're not doing so quickly. And the internet and the online world moves so freaking fast. So in order for there to be more laws and more regulations in place for influencers and people that run online businesses like this, we as the public have to alert our lawmakers. Politicians listen to what their constituents want because they're elected. So if thousands of you out there just write in to your public official, probably your federal senator or House representatives, or even local or state senators or representatives, that would be a big move in the right direction here. All right, my friends, I know that was a lot of law talk, but it's super, super important to this topic right now, because if you are an influencer, for those of you tuning in that are, I want you to know how to protect your business. You need to be legitimate and you need to follow the rules. And while it's important legally, it's also, you guys, ethically and morally important to your audience base. What happened here with the Bucket List family is a clear indication of that. And I received numerous direct messages to that effect. People felt taken advantage of and believed that even if it wasn't legally wrong, it certainly was ethically wrong. They seemed, this family seemed to be very choosy with their Instagram caption wording, in hopes of likes and shares, regardless of if that even entered people to actually win the giveaway. Thus, being open, honest, and transparent will serve you so well as an influencer. You won't get in trouble if you do this. You won't get in trouble legally, and you won't get in trouble with your audience. So if you're an influencer listening in, I really hope you take that to heart. And I do want to point out that you can still do giveaways. Don't be afraid of doing them because they're really wonderful to do. Of course, they help you likely gain some new followers and diversify your audience, but you also gain sincere gratitude from your loyal following for giving things away. I just want you to do it right and to do it on the right legal foot. And a reminder here, you guys, that I have an entire podcast episode, number 37, dedicated to running a legal online giveaway. So I also want to point out again that it's just really important you follow FTC guidelines and you're not deceptive, fraudulent, or misleading when you do giveaways. Now, finally, I wanted to point out a few influencers that I follow and I know lots and lots of other people follow that have done it right and have worked hard to ensure their giveaways and their sponsored ads comply with the law. Now, the first is Jillian Harris. If you don't follow her, I'm talking about her right now. You'll probably go follow her in a little bit. She was on Jason Mesnick's season of The Bachelor, and then she was actually also The Bachelorette. And then she became popular. I think she had a show on HGTV, and she has made a living off of becoming an influencer. So she was very, very particular in December with informing her audience about how to enter all of her December 12 days of giving at Christmas time. I remember her specifically explaining in her stories and every single post that while it was a little tedious to win and it took some time, this is what you had to do. She had like a raffle copter that you had to go to on each blog, but she pointed it out time and time and time again. And she linked to the official rules every single day. I loved how she did that. It was very open and honest that they had to do all of these things to enter to win. And I also want to point out Jenna Kutcher being a good example of running paid sponsorships the right way. She always discloses that she's receiving a commission or that she's paid to promote this certain brand. And you guys, I am sure there are other influencers out there that you all follow too that you think set a good example of how to do it the right way. I would love to hear who those people are so I can give them some love on another follow-up podcast episode, maybe a blog post, and potentially even shout them out on social media. So who else do you love to follow that you think does the influencer thing the right way? Just DM me on Instagram with your favorite influencers. I'm at the legal page. You can find me easily. Woof, you guys, I swear my mouth is so dry right now after chatting it up about all of this, but it was so worth it. And I hope you all found this podcast episode enlightening on what went down with everything over the past week. I want to recap here the main big points as we close out. 1, if you're an influencer of any kind, know that you have power, and that power to your audience comes with responsibility. Do your research, or if you don't want to deal with the research, then hire someone to help you. You have the money to do it. Hire a legitimate attorney that works in the online world and understands all of this social media stuff. There are many of us out there who do this type of law. And you owe it to yourself to protect your business and yourself and your family and everything you've worked so hard to create. And 2, finally, what all of you as consumers of social media and followers of these influencers should know moving forward about social media sweepstakes and brand sponsorship and the like. The main thing for you as the public to remember is that now an enormous amount of advertising is done through these accounts. Companies spend tons of money to pay influencers to share about their products. And the more followers these influencers have and audience engagement, the more money they can make. So when influencers do giveaways such as this that we've been talking about this whole episode, and they mislead or they misinform or they're not really truthful or it's kind of sketchy, and they do all this to the public in order to gain more followers, that most definitely translates later on down the road into more money for them. And consumers of social media just need to be aware of all of this and make an educated decision if they want to continue participating in these giveaways or following these accounts. And I really want them to be aware that any type of online sweepstakes that you see likely has more complex official rules that you should look into before you start participating in the giveaway. And again, we as consumers need to report any type of deceptive practices that you think are egregious enough. Now, you guys, that is it, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, I will have some great resources, and everything that I touched about in this episode will be up in my show notes. So make sure you go to thelegalpage.com/episode 40. I will be back next week, same time, same place, with a full-blown Q&A session for all of you who had specific questions about influencer responsibilities and online giveaways. I answered quite a few of them in here during this podcast episode, but there was really a lot of good questions from you guys. And I've never done like an actual, here's your question, here's my answer before. So I'm going to do a Q&A session, and I'm super excited about next week's episode. And if you have anything specific that you'd like me to go over, I won't be recording that for a few days. So as always, please feel free to contact me and my team at The Legal Page on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, The Legal Page, and thelegalpage.com, our website. It's pretty darn easy to find me. Much love to you all. Thanks again for your time and your interest. See you next week. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Page podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.